Exodus 15:27 says, "Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 date palms, and they camped there by the water." If you've joined us this past Sunday, you'll remember that we invited you to join us in the wilderness, the place of our own transformation. It's also a place where we learn to trust God more and more as God provides for our every need. God provides springs of water in the desert, abundance in our scarcity, more than we can ask or imagine if we just pay attention to what He's doing and learn to trust Him. A good guide knows where to find water or how to survive off the land, and Moses was a leader formed in the wilderness. He had wilderness experience that made him a good guide. What we see in this story is that God meets their worries of not enough, their scarcity, with an oasis of more than enough. This isn't just a good wilderness guide. This is God showing up to help His people rest and feast and learn to trust His leading. Friends, we have a better guide for the journey than Moses or myself. We have the Good Shepherd. We read in John 10 that Jesus self-identifies as this Good Shepherd. He writes this, John the Apostle writes this, "Truly I tell you, anyone who doesn't enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in some other way is a thief and robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens it for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought all his own outside, he goes ahead of them. The sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will never follow a stranger. Instead, they will run away from him because they don't know the voice of strangers." We read that Jesus calls us by name and leads us out. He goes ahead of us as a shepherd, and we're invited to follow after him, for we know his voice. This speaks of trust. It speaks of security. It speaks of provision. If Jesus is the one leading us in this transition, friends, we're in good hands. He will never leave us nor forsake us. He is with us in this journey. When those listening to this metaphor didn't get it, Jesus expanded on it. He said, again, "Truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep didn't listen to them. I am the gate. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved, and will come in and go out and find pasture." He's the gate for the sheep. This metaphor is always a bit puzzling, but bear with me. In the wild, shepherds don't have pens or stables or enclosures, so they look for spaces on the side of hills that maybe where they can hem the sheep in to a sort of temporary enclosure. If you think maybe of a rock formation against a hill, like a semicircle of rocks that they can kind of hem in all the sheep. And then where the opening would be in the rocks, that's where the Good Shepherd sits. They become the gate, the doorway, preventing predators from getting in. So we have this image of Jesus leading the people out as a shepherd who know his voice. I think we get this image. It's an image that makes sense to us. But then this image of the gate, it's such a countercultural image of a sacrificial leader who would stand in the gap, stand in the door to keep the enemies at bay. This one, again, speaks of trust and safety and care. If Jesus is the one shepherding us, if he's the one protecting us, friends, we're in good hands. For us collectively, there's an invitation here to keep our eyes focused on Jesus, to follow him as a good shepherd that guides us onward together. For you personally, there's an invitation here too, to trust his leading in your life, to give up a bit of control and give it to Jesus. And it may sound a bit risky, but speaking from experience, it's a risk that will transform your life in incredible ways.